Today about optimizing the Adonis index. Now, a lot of people think the Adonis index is simply the ratio between your waist and your shoulders. However, it's really important to note that your height also comes into play for the Adonis index. I mean, your shoulders to your waist is really the golden ratio. What we're aiming for is a ratio of 1 to 1.618. But applying this to your body properly to get the full Adonis index effect involves your height. If you look at our two-dimensional man here, and keep in mind this is rough because in a true Adonis index we're dealing with circumferences in a 3D level, not just a 2D picture, but we're going to work with what we have for now. You see that with this 6-foot person, he has the best Adonis index he could have. In fact, if you look at his waist as a two-dimensional figure, the distance between his shoulders and his waist measurement is exactly the 2 dimensions of his waist. This creates the perfect triangle, the golden triangle, what we're trying to accomplish with the ratios of your waist to your shoulders. Now, if you take the exact same measurements, but apply them instead to a 5'6" man, right? So we've lost 4 inches in height. Well, he can still have the same shoulders and same waist. Only now, if you look, see, it's slightly off. Not a big deal when you're looking at, 6 foot to 5'6", but it does make a difference. Now, if we take this a bit farther to a 5'2" man, okay, so we lost about 10 inches now. Sure, he's still got great shoulders and a waist. He's got the ratio, but now it's very off. You see now that the ratio of the width of his waist to the distance between his shoulders to his waist is really off. This starts to create a squished effect. You start looking more like a comic book mockery of a bodybuilder. The key to the Adonis index is a perfect aesthetic pleasing body that includes the effects of height. It's a complete 3-dimensional full body index. Now if you take it to a 6'10" man, again we're going to extremes, so this person's about 10 inches above a 6-foot man. He can still have the same shoulders and the same waist. Only now, see, we're off in the other direction. And what we have now is a very narrow man who still has the Adonis index with a golden ratio, but doesn't have the true Adonis index because it's not correlated to his height. So if you look at our man here, you can see that he's become very narrow. He still has proportionately pleasing body, but not the best it could be. So let's take a 6-foot tall man again, but non-optimized. You see here, with his height, he should be wider both in the waist and his shoulders. So when we fix it, you see now the man becomes a lot more pleasing. He's broader and he's the ideal shape for 6 feet. And this is what we want to accomplish with the Adonis index. We want to base it off of the measurements of your height to get the exact numbers for your body. Now, I know some people have said that, Brad, I don't want to put on a ½ inch on my waist. You're going to make me fat. Well, remember this is circumference, so a ½ inch is very small. What tends to happen is that for your height, if you have the proper shoulders, you have no choice but to have a slightly, remember these are circumferences, slightly wider waist, because you have to support the muscle mass of your proper shoulder width. So if you feel in the small of your back right now, on either side of your spine, 2 muscles, those are your erector spinae. And they're responsible for a large portion of lifting and pulling and maintaining proper posture. They get worked when you do things like squats and deadlifts and things like overhead presses. Most exercises where you're working your shoulders, your erector spinae and your abs are keeping you from tipping over. So in order to support the muscle mass and the amount of work you need to create that muscle mass in your shoulders, you need to have the Adonis index ratioed waist. So that's why, if you're a 6'6" man with a 28-inch waist and the appropriate shoulders, congratulations, because you still have the golden ratio, which still means you're visually pleasing. But to have the true Adonis index and get the Adonis effect, it has to be ratioed properly to your height. You have to have the proper shoulder width, the kind of shoulder width that makes people take notice right away. And in order to have that shoulder width, you have to have the right waist. There's very odd circumstances when people can pull off wider than normal shoulders with a smaller waist, but it's very rare, and those shoulders still typically are not correlated properly to height. So this is optimizing your Adonis index. There's a number of ways that we can do this, and there'll be a series of videos on this topic. But the key to remember is that your shoulders to your waist, I mean, that's gold. If you've already got that number, or even close to that number, you're 95% of the way there. Optimizing that to make sure it's in line with your proper height. And then little tricks we're going to talk about later would include, dealing with your posture, etc. This is what gets you all the way there. So the key is take the measurements from your height, figure out what your ideal waist and shoulders is. Then obviously the hardest part, drive really hard, make sure you can get your shoulders to grow. Your waist, if you have to lean down, we can take care of that with diet. If your waist needs to increase slightly, don't worry about it. Don't do any specific waist widening exercises, because again, a ½ inch in circumference is a very, very small change on something as big as a measurement of your waist. That will come with the hard work it takes to build up your shoulders. All right, I'm Brad Pilon, and this was a special video for the Adonis Index and the Adonis Lifestyle website.